Karen, thank you so much for being sitting down and taking the time to visit with me. I appreciate it very much. So,
absolutely, my pleasure.
yeah. How have you enjoyed your first few weeks on campus here at Hendrix College?
Well, it has been a great summer. I mean, being on campus and having an opportunity to acclimate in preparation for the students and faculty returning was just amazing. And it's such a beautiful campus and a great town. So we've really enjoyed getting to know Conway and getting to know campus.
City of Colleges.
City of Colleges. What a remarkable relationship too between the college and the city of Conway. It really is unique.
How's your family liking Conway?
We love it. I mean, it's my husband and 2 dogs, so we're empty nesters, but this is exactly the right size town. I'm a huge fan of roundabouts already.
Okay.
I mean, totally sold on the idea, and cheer every time a new one's going in.
Well, let's talk a little bit about where you were born and where you were raised, and you're an Arkansas native.
Right. Yeah. So I'm from Huntsville, Arkansas, and started school in Kingston, actually, which is a small town in Madison County. We didn't stay in Arkansas that long, so we left, I think I was maybe 6 or 7.
Okay.
So I grew up in Southeast Florida, and then my family all migrated back to Madison County over the years, and I just didn't make it back. By the time that started happening, I was too far along in my life journey, and so now this is my first time living in Arkansas as an adult. I'm thrilled to be home.
Tell me a little bit about your educational background. I think you are originally political science professor, so
right.
Great time to be involved in politics.
Always.
There's something going on here. How did you, well, first of all, tell me about what led you into that particular field of study and teaching, and then how you transitioned from there into administration.
Sure. I knew as a student that I was interested in international issues. My father was born in Copenhagen, and my grandparents took me over there when I was a teenager, and so I was fascinated with the rest of the world. So I knew I wanted to do something like that, but I didn't know what, and I ended up taking some international relations courses, and it was the faculty, because they were fantastic, and so that's how I ended up majoring in political science. And then this one faculty member, Jack Turner, he suggested I go to graduate school, and I'm a first-generation student, and my answer to him was, I need to get a job. Right? I can't keep going to school forever. And he said they would pay me to go.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, I mean, that was my life decision right there. Sign me up. And so I ended up at Vanderbilt studying political science and international politics. I stayed on that track. And I love it. I love the field, and teaching that and being able to inspire students and really mentor them and feed into their lives was such an important consideration for me.
Did you know you wanted to teach when you were on that education path, or did you think, well, I might want to use this in some other capacity? So,
I'm sure I thought about other things, especially as an undergraduate, because foreign service and international business and all these other options are out there. But once I realized that I could be like the people who changed my life, I could become a faculty member, there really didn't seem to be anything else that interested me as much as that. And I wanted to give back. I wanted to do for other people what had been done for me. It was so transformational, that educational experience was for me, as the first person in my family to ever go to college.
Did you have a favorite course that you liked to teach, or that it was kind of this is what I'm known for, sort of thing?
Yeah, there are a couple, and really it ended up being what we called a general education course, and so it included students from all across the university. It was an introduction to international politics, basically, but the way I taught it involved about a third of the semester in a role play simulation, and that ended up becoming my favorite class because, well, the students, we talk about theory, we learn about the backgrounds and the history, and then I throw them into a historical situation and ask them to solve a major problem like the division of the Indian subcontinent, and they're all excited and ready to take on this big challenge, and they fail miserably. People die, it's horrible, there's crying.
Oh, gosh.
But the lessons are so important because we don't really, in the liberal arts, we're not interested in easy questions. We're interested in grappling with those questions to which we've not found an answer in thousands of years. And it's humbling for the students to recognize that, Gandhi couldn't figure this out. Maybe it's not so terrible that we couldn't solve this problem either, but they learn so many lessons, so many important personal lessons when they put that theory into practice.
How did you transition? What was the catalyst that moved you from in the classroom to into an administrative role?
Well, I didn't leave the classroom until 2020. So I stayed in the classroom even when I was a full-time administrator because by choice, I didn't have to. But what happened is someone I liked and respected asked me to do a job. And I started doing it and realized I was pretty good at it. And by doing that administrative work, I could help more faculty and students. And so my ability to really transform lives was magnified by being in an administrative role. And I just had a skill set that was naturally, part of that's my background in social sciences, that was just naturally a good fit for administrative work.
What got your attention here at Hendrix College when you were looking, I guess, to make a move? You probably were contacted about the opening and,
Sure.
And were asked to, give it some consideration. So you come to Hendrix College that you probably don't have a personal connection with immediately,
Right.
at least. What was it about Hendrix College that sold you?
The people. I mean, of course I did all kinds of research. I was looking for my next role, but really, really picky about that. Even on Zoom, I knew almost instantly that there was something special about this place based on their interactions with one another, the search committee. And then I met them in person in Little Rock, and it was obvious. Like this is a group of people with tremendous commitment and respect for one another, and less concerned about titles and more concerned about getting the job done correctly. And if I can work with people like that, we can do anything.
A lot of aspects of higher education focus on, workforce training and preparing people for careers. And not that Hendrix does not do that, but there is an emphasis on the liberal arts education here and critically thinking about problem solving and issues of the world and how we all kind of interconnect and everything. I would assume that that's something that certainly appeals to you, but speak to that whole
Sure.
liberal arts curriculum, and it's under attack from a lot of folks.
And it drives me
these days.
crazy. Right?
Yeah.
I'm a social scientist, and I'm an empirical person, and I'm interested in the data and what do the data tell us. Very clearly and overwhelmingly, they tell us that this exact kind of education that we provide here is the best preparation for life and for success. So it's not just the content of the education, which is important, the broad-based education, the sort of deeper, larger perspectives. It's also the context in the environment in which that happens, in the classroom where your faculty member knows your name, where your students and faculty are having conversations not just about the curriculum, but about life outside of class, where you're involved in leadership. So there's this study Richard Detweiler just published. He's a Princeton-educated psychologist, former college president, where he analyzed, through deep interviews, 1,000 college graduates from all different kinds of institutions. And the attributes of a liberal arts education, the things I just mentioned in content and context, are positively correlated with a meaningful, engaged, and financially successful life. And vocational majors, the things that parents think their students should do because that will lead them to prosperity, it's not at all correlated with economic success, and it's negatively correlated with some of the other attributes of life, the engagement as a citizen and as a thinking human being. The bottom line is liberal arts is the best preparation for economic success.
Let's talk a little bit more about that civic engagement, because I think that is an area, not only as an administrator and president of Hendrix College, but as a political science professor, you've seen the decline of civic engagement over the last several decades, and you know where our politics are in this country right now and how divided we are. Do you see, I'm an eternal optimist. I believe that we will cycle out of some of the division that's here right now, but it is hard to see that light at the end of the tunnel. I can't describe what it's going to look like at the end. How do you feel about that?
I'm not an eternal optimist, I'm a realist, but I recognize that people were having these conversations in the 1860s and had probably said the same things. How do we get out of this? So I think we will, from a larger historical perspective, cycle out of it.
When you've come to Hendrix College and you've had a few months to kind of at least start understanding all of what you'll be doing, there are some great things at Hendrix. I'm sure there are some areas where you see some potential improvement. Let's talk about the great things first.
Sure.
So what do you feel like does not need to change at Hendrix College?
The residential liberal arts experience. participate. And I think a lot of liberal arts colleges, and many of them for really good reasons, have felt compelled to become something else, for survival's sake. I think for Hendrix, and this is what I told the search committee, and this is what I believe just based on looking at the college, I think that is our core, and it's our competitive advantage. I mean, really, that experience doesn't really exist in other institutions the way it does here. So that deep academic, intellectual, social experience is so important to the future of this college.
Where do you see some areas that you're going to focus some attention
Sure.
on? I sense that you're probably not the kind of person that's going to walk in and on day one say, we're changing all of this.
Right,
You want to
right.
absorb the environment. You want to talk to the people that have been a part of this process for a long time. But where do you think there will be some focus for you to make some change?
I mean, I think we have to take a really careful look at the curriculum and the co-curricular opportunities like Odyssey, and just make sure that they are taking full advantage of whatever opportunities exist now, and that we are articulating their value well. I mean, I think the key piece for Hendrix is the idea that this is some kind of hidden gem has to go away. And I think there are things about the roots of this college. So there's this humility that goes along with being a place like Hendrix that has to stop. I mean, we really have to get good at talking about why this is an experience that is incredibly valuable for the right student.
You're going to get an opportunity to talk about some of that in a big platform because the sesquicentennial,
Yes.
the 150th anniversary of this college is coming up. What's in the planning stages right now for that?
I mean, we're early in the planning stages, so I think part of it will be linking the strategic plan to some of our fundraising priorities around the strategic plan and the sesquicentennial, and linking that back also to some of the city's celebrations as well, because Hendrix and Conway are inseparable, and we have such a shared history. So I'm hoping that this becomes a much larger community-wide celebration for our sesquicentennial, of course, and for the cities.
You guys made an announcement in late August that you are going to be changing your tuition advantage program. No longer has to go through some sort of review process.
Right.
If you're admitted, you qualify. Tell everybody what they would qualify for.
So all admitted first-time freshmen beginning next fall will qualify for the Tuition Advantage Scholarship, which essentially sets their tuition equivalent to the tuition and fees of their home flagship institution. So for Arkansas, that's the University of Arkansas. Tennessee, the University of Tennessee. And so they will pay no more than they would pay in tuition and fees at their home flagship institution here at Hendrix.
Is that a viable financial model, or is that a recruiting? I mean, what's the impetus for that?
Well, I think the impetus for it is this conversation about cost clarity. I just went through this 2 years ago as a parent, and there's a lot of discussion nationally about how unbelievably complicated figuring out the cost of college is for families, and it bothers me. It bothers me because it doesn't need to be that way, but it also bothers me because the people most affected by it are first-generation students or students from a lower socioeconomic status.
Yeah.
So we want to provide that clarity. That's the driving factor. And 95% of our students are already receiving scholarships that would put them in that position anyway. So instead of making that unclear on the front end, we want to be clear right up front so that students who might have ruled out Hendrix in the past based on their perceived cost will apply. We want those bright students to apply.
How is the financial condition of the college? Are you satisfied that you're on some pretty solid footing?
I'm never satisfied financially. I mean, never. I'll never be satisfied financially. And I mean, I suppose I should say if we have one of those moments where someone drops $500 million in our lap, maybe then I can breathe.
For a little while.
For a little while. But I think when you're looking at residential liberal arts colleges across the country, we're all kind of in this situation where every dollar matters. And so we're incredibly conscientious of our costs, obviously, and the need to direct as much of our resources as possible to student aid, because we want students who want this educational experience to have access to it. It's so important to this college.
What else do you want people to know about you as president of Hendrix College? What do you think that maybe you haven't had as many opportunities to get it out there yet, but you want people to walk away with one or two things that they know Karen Petersen stands for?
When I look at our students here, and when I look at young people in general, I am incredibly optimistic. I'm not generally an optimist, but I'm optimistic about this generation, and it might be because I have a child of my own who's, you know, fits right into that. But they are so different from the students I'm used to educating. They are so committed to making a difference in the world in a meaningful way. They are no BS, right? This is a group of people, and I love that. And I really think that when I look at them and I see the future, I feel good about it. And that's despite all of this negative news swirling around us all the time. I feel like this is a generation that's going to make a huge difference in our world.
I share that sentiment. That's why I'm laughing as you're talking about this, because my wife and I have had this conversation. They're very intolerant of intolerance, you know, and they do, generally speaking, want to change things. Thank you so much for sitting down.